There is a conflict in the White House regarding negotiations with Putin. The U.S. president does not know whether to put strong pressure on the Kremlin or not, the Wall Street Journal wrote about this. It was reported that Donald Trump's closest advisors are divided into two camps on this issue. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Special Envoy Kellogg are urging the U.S. president to take a tougher stance against Moscow. They see no genuine desire for peace in Putin and warn against overtrusting the Kremlin. Their proposal is that as long as Moscow only demands Ukrainian territory and does not cease hostilities, there will be no concessions. However, Trump seems to be listening more to his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who has already met Putin twice in person in Moscow and is convinced that the Russian dictator wants peace. It is worth noting that in recent weeks, Witkoff has made high-profile statements regarding occupied territories in Ukraine, calling them the largest issue in resolving the Russo-Ukrainian war. In an interview with Tucker Carlson, Witkoff said that the largest issue in that conflict are these so-called four regions. In his view, these include Donbass, Crimea, Luhansk, and two others. Following such statements, Reuters reported that some of the actions and comments made by Witkoff regarding a settlement of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine have drawn criticism within the White House and among Republicans. These contradictions in the White House are now spilling over into the public sphere. After the missile attack on the Russian city of Sumy, Trump called the incident a mistake and blamed Joe Biden for the war. Rubio and Kellogg took a more harsh stance. Rubio described the attack as brutal and tragic, while Kellogg called it a violation of all decency. After that, Trump himself was forced to admit that Putin was one of those responsible for this war. It is noted that currently, intense discussions are underway in the White House about whether it is necessary to tighten sanctions against Russia in order to effectively force Putin to sit at the negotiating table.
In 2024,
the top U.S. commander in the Pacific warned senators that the military support China and North Korea are giving Russia in its war on Ukraine is creating a security risk in his region as Moscow provides critical military assistance to both in return. According to Associated Press, Admiral Samuel Papero, head of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, told the Senate Armed Services Committee that China has provided 70% of the machine tools and 90% of the legacy chips to Russia to help Moscow rebuild its war machine. In exchange, he said, China is potentially getting help in technologies to make its submarines move more quietly, along with other assistance. Senators pressed Papero and General Xavier Brunson, commander of U.S. Forces Korea, on China's advances in the region, including threats to Taiwan. And they also questioned both on the U.S. military presence in South Korea, and whether it should be shielded from personnel cuts.
In 2024, the People's Liberation Army demonstrated growing capabilities through persistent pressure operations, with military pressure against Taiwan increasing by 300%. China's increasingly aggressive actions near Taiwan are not just exercises, they are rehearsals. And while the PLA attempts to intimidate the people of Taiwan and demonstrate coercive capabilities, these actions are backfiring, drawing increased global attention and accelerating Taiwan's own defense preparations. As General Brunson said, North Korea's development of advanced nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles pose a direct threat to our homeland and our allies, and are executing a deepening cooperation with Russia. Russia's growing military cooperation with China adds another layer of complexity, creating a compounded challenge with the deepening cooperation among China, Russia, and North Korea. And China and Russia's Pacific Fleet is a growth enterprise. U.S. Indo-PACOM deters these challenges to regional stability and competition and crisis while maintaining the availability to prevail. But that margin is eroding, as Chairman and Ranking Member have discussed. In 2024, we conducted 120 joint exercises, among them 20 major joint exercises, including not just the U.S. Joint Force, but allies and partners. We continue to strengthen the relationship with Japan, South Korea, Australia, the Philippines, India, Taiwan, the ASEAN nations, Pacific Island countries, And in fact, European partners are active in the theater.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte visited wounded soldiers in an Odessa hospital on Tuesday and presented them with medals. According to Associated Press, Rutte and Zelensky spoke to soldiers and medical staff and took photos with soldiers. The two leaders also held bilateral talks in the southern city on Tuesday. According to the Ukrainian presidential office, among the topics of discussion was the security of Ukraine and the whole of Europe.
Yeah, so you have some visitors here. Yeah.
Щось не вистачає вам.
Поранення нижніх кінцівок, зараз проводиться лікування.
And where were you fighting?
3,5 місяці. З Києвом? Так, так.
Where were you fighting?
Kherson.
Yeah.
Ще погоди.
Бодро вже.
Сидіть, Олександр.
Дякую.
Дякую вам за службу.
Дякую. Служу українському народу.
Дякую вам за службу. Good?
Дякую.
Щасливо.
Дякую.
Окей.
Старший сержант Граждан.
Молодець.
Hi, sir. Good morning.
Ну, вже більш-менш.
Так, можу вже трошки шевелити.
Слава Богу.
А слово
Як наші лікарі.
Найкращі в світі наші. Їм велика це все подяка, що ставить нас таких минулих. Ілля Трифоновичу.
Також це частина фізіотерапії.
Тут проводиться основний. 14-го року службу захищають.
14-го року.
Yeah. Trying to get in.
Велике вам дякую.
Дякую.
Служу українському народу. Україна понад все.
Вітаю.
Дякую. Служу українському народу.
Дякую за службу.
Служу українському народу.